I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would you please stand with me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you for coming out tonight. Welcome to the city of Shelton, those that don't live here like I do. The first item on our agenda will be some commission reports. And so at this time, I would like to turn this over to Mark Ziegler, our Parks and Recreation Director, and he's got a presentation that he's going to talk about.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. I'm going to ask Andrew Holston to join me up here at the podium for a second. We're recognizing Andrew today for his efforts as part of his Eagle Scout project. We should have some pictures up here in a second of Johnson Park and the efforts Andrew put in up there. I've been working with Andrew for a couple months now in organizing this project after he came to me looking for a community project as part of his Eagle Scout merit badge, or is that the right term?
Rank.
Okay, rank, okay. So as we were looking at one of our park facilities that needed some improvements and upgrades, we looked at Johnson Park up on Capitol Hill. We had a arborist come in and give us a report on that park 2 years ago when we were looking at some improvements there. The neighborhood was really interested in keeping the trees in the park, so what he recommended was putting down some mulch material to help with the compaction, aeration, and water infiltration. And Andrew went above and beyond just placing that wood chips and the bark material, but refurbishing a couple picnic tables and pouring some concrete picnic table pads. On September 29th, they met up there at the park. How many people did you have there, Andrew?
34, I believe.
34 people. He was organized. Andrew went out and got donations for materials and supplies. They poured the picnic table pads the day before on the 28th and then spread all the 120 yards of wood chips up there by hand. It was quite the effort by these folks. But now we have some of those improvements that are going to help keep those trees healthy and there for the long term, and it's really going to benefit that neighborhood as well. So, Andrew, if you've got a few words here.
Okay. First, I would like to thank Mr. Ziegler for working with me on the project and always being available when I have had questions. I would like to thank my family and friends for supporting me in this, and I would like to thank my people who donated, whether it be in-kind donations or monetary donations. The people who donated were 40 at 8 Club, Engel Insurance, James Bolt, attorney, Bonin & Cook, attorneys, Bowers Dentistry, Brady Trucking, Brungart & Associates, attorneys, Dr. Colette Lash, DDS, First Choice Auto Service, Foster & Williams Architects, Haas & Wilson Haas, attorneys, Miles Sand and Gravel, Wagon Works Garage, Sons of American Legion, and Vanderwalls Garage. I would also like to thank my Boy Scout troop and my leaders, and that is it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I appreciate you coming in tonight, and we appreciate the opportunity to give you a certificate of appreciation. The City of Shelton has one here for you, and I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to come and present it to you. So what it says here, this is a certificate of appreciation that the City of Shelton, Washington presents, and this certificate is an appreciation to you, Andrew. And how do you pronounce your last name? Holston?
Holston.
Holston, okay. And for your efforts in the renovation of the City of Shelton's Art Johnson Park. Andrew showed great organization skills and follow through to complete the installation of wood mulch, picnic table pads, the table, and the sign painting. The improvements will serve to extend the life of the trees in the park and provide better experience to park visitors. Andrew's efforts are a direct result of the quality individuals that the Boy Scouts produce. The rank of Eagle Scout shows your dedication to the community. scouting principles, and leadership. All skills that provide a great value throughout life. And so I'm going to come and present that to you now. And I know what Andrew's gone through to become an Eagle Scout because I got to... Oh, sure, go ahead.
I'm not yet an Eagle Scout.
No.
But the project is a major
No, but
part.
you're going to make it.
I will.
Yeah, what I was going to say is, I got to Weeblos, and I looked at what you had to do to become an Eagle Scout, and I said, I'm out of here. I can't possibly do that, but you can, and this is our appreciation right here for you. And so I think, let me open it up here, and we'll... All right, give him a big round of applause.
And for those of us who live in the neighborhood, we definitely appreciate it. Yes.
All right, next on our agenda is that we are going to have a gentleman from the Association of Washington Cities come and I think and speak to us a little bit. And I've known Carl for a while, and I guess before he does that, Dave O'Leary is going to probably say a few words. So,
The person that's going to speak to us now is Carl Schrader. He's from the Association of Washington Cities. He is a lobbyist for them, and he's going to talk to us about being more effective as it relates to our legislative agenda for this year. Heard a little bit of what he's going to talk about. It's very exciting, and I think we're going to do better than we have before.
great. Come on up, Carl.
Thank you.
So thank you, Mayor. Again, Carl Schrader here with the Association of Washington Cities, and appreciate the invitation to come out and chat with you all about what we're calling Operation Strong Cities, which is a new initiative of the association. Basically, it's arisen out of the last couple of years down the road in Olympia and the results that cities across the state have been seeing out of their legislature as the budget difficulties have really gripped the state. And as they've made a series of difficult decisions with competing priorities, unfortunately, support for cities like Shelton has not always risen to the top of what they're able to do. And recognizing that we're facing another difficult session, we realized we needed to kind of up our game a little bit, and this is part of that effort to get out and talk to folks like yourselves to share some information and some thoughts and hopefully start a dialogue about how we can all work together a little bit more effectively. So to set the stage, you guys have heard about the McCleary obligations facing the state. We have, another $1 to $2 billion of investment in education funding necessary to meet the court order that the legislature is under right now. And you might ask yourself, well, I hear that the state has another $2.6 billion in revenue coming in this biennium than they had last biennium, so what's the problem? What's the problem kind of depends on how you look at it, but the state governor's office is out talking to folks with a little chart that basically shows, okay, we've got $2.6 billion more coming in. What does it take to maintain the level of spending that we're already doing, the programs that we're under law currently operating with new population growth and new caseloads and that sort of thing? If you add that up, plus the potential for new state employee contracts, which is an optional thing, will likely be hotly debated, you end up $900 million in the hole before you even start to address McCleary. So that close to $1 billion plus the $1 to $2 billion for the education mandate from the Supreme Court, plus another potential $1 or $2 billion from the class size initiative that's on the ballot this November, which as of the latest polling a week or so ago is passing 2 to 3 to 1. Their state is going to be under an enormous amount of pressure to find the resources necessary to complete their business and hopefully maintain the level of support that they provide local communities around the state, who are really the folks who are providing a lot of services that the public demands and are the sort of front lines when those services aren't delivered. So realizing that we are in such a pickle, And looking at the last couple of years where things like the Public Works Trust Fund, things like the Centennial Clean Water Program have seen lowered levels of investment because the state needed to take care of other priorities, we realized if we kept going to Olympia with the same message that we've been going there for the last decade, which is local governments are important, we're your partners, we want you to partner with us and don't leave us high and dry as you're making your decisions, we're likely to see the same result, which was, that's nice, you guys are doing important work, but we have our own problems to take care of. So we put together this Operation Strong Cities, which is kind of encapsulated in that packet I just gave you, which is a pocket guide of ways to encourage elected leaders at the local level like yourself to find ways to create accountability with your legislators. Find ways to be more direct when you ask them for their assistance. Try to get commitments. Make sure that the community knows that you're working with the state to accomplish something that is the community is asking you to do. You're not doing this because you think it's personally a good project. People are asking for the support from the state because it's something that the community demands. So for instance, I know the mayor has been doing amazing work on figuring out how to find state support for sewer infrastructure so that your local rates don't go through the roof or continue to go up any more than they are under the current plan. And that work of building a coalition and finding where you could make investments and ways to make those investments that would actually help the pocketbooks of the general citizens is absolutely what we're talking about doing. Things that we might suggest you think about are finding out how to make sure that your constituents know you're doing that work and that you're asking your legislators for their help on this, and then finding out how to communicate whether or not you got it at the end of the day. Those are the sorts of things we're talking about when we say help create some consequences and accountability for your state legislators. And that also goes both ways. That's not a just rat them out when they're not doing, not helping as much as we think they might maybe should or they could, but also find ways to celebrate them when they do go to bat for you. So we at the association, for instance, have started a new award that we've never done before, recognizing people who go above and beyond for their communities. And so that might be something you could consider asking your legislators to try to go out of their way to get that award. So, there's a whole host of different things that can be done. You guys are actually someone that we hold up as an example around the state of folks who are doing the right thing, trying to build those coalitions and get out there and demand that the legislature meet the needs of your constituents. I just encourage you to keep doing that even more and would be happy to lend any support that AWC can to your efforts and brainstorm in any way that we can. So just wanted to come down and thank you and share a little bit of that.
Well, thank you very much, Carl. I greatly appreciate the comments that you made. And actually, I am the smallest part in this. All I had was an idea. All I knew is that the city of Shelton the rates were spinning out of control. And I started asking questions. And number one is I had the support of my fellow commissioners. If I didn't have the support of my fellow commissioners on that, it would have been dead in the water. And we hired an intern. Amanda, you know Amanda,
yeah.
And she's working now full-time on this project. If I didn't have a city administrator that was willing to go beyond his normal duties, I mean way beyond those to push this, we would be dead in the water. So it really takes all of us working together with an idea, and I think it's phenomenal. As today, we do not have one city that we've contacted that did not support us pushing this agenda forward.
Yeah.
That's pretty good, 100%. I like that. Now, we are still building the coalition, and the problem with the state and all the financial problems they have, that's a problem, I understand it. But the answer that many of us, we call cities, and they say, well, the cities say, their legislators say, sorry, we can't give you any more money, we got all these problems. Unfortunately, that doesn't make our rates go down, and
Yeah.
it doesn't help our problems. So really, part of the Strong Cities and us getting out there and working with AWC, and again, also AWC supporting our goal here, I just think that it's the right time and the right place for cities to stand up and say, if you want this level of regulation, you can't get it on a city that has 30% of their population below the poverty line.
Yeah.
They cannot afford to do that. So that's my little speech on that. Do you have any questions for Carl or anything? He's come all the way over from Olympia.
Well, I will just give you, reinforce the kudos just for folks who are watching, that the mayor and Dave are definitely keeping us busy out there fighting for you, and we appreciate that, and that's great. And I guess I'll leave it with the young man before me, Andrew. The concept of doing some organizing, finding some friends, and then doing the hard work is what we need to do. So appreciate all your guys' help on that.
Thank you very much, Carl. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right. Next is our Commission Weekly Report. Commissioner Moore.
Okay. Tomorrow morning, I will be attending a League of Women Voters meeting. It's open to the public. There will be discussions on 3 initiatives, 591, 594, and 1351. That meeting begins at 11:30 at Olympic College. And then tomorrow evening, I will be attending the League of Women Voters Forum, co-sponsored by the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, focusing on senior issues at the Pavilion. On Thursday, I have a Mason Matters meeting in the morning, and then I will be attending PUD Chamber membership luncheon at 11:30 at PUD. And that's it this week.
All right. Very good. Commissioner Olson.
Tomorrow's a monthly Mason Transit Board meeting, if we get a quorum. And Thursday will be the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Advisory Board meeting. That's it for my week.
Okay. I'm leaving for 2 weeks. I'm taking it was supposed to be a nice tropical vacation for 2 weeks, but unfortunately my wife's mother is quite ill, and we're going to be spending a lot of time with her in and out of hospitals and things like that. So anyway, it'll still be in Fiji. It's not a bad place to be, and so we'll be gone for a few weeks. But I am planning to attend what I thought was tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock at the Senior Center. Candidate?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
so-
out at the Pavilion.
Tracy will be there, I will be there also. So just public aware when we're going to be at a place together. And then that's my only meeting I'm planning to be at this week. So that concludes our commission reports. Next is an opportunity for general public comment. We have 2 of those every commission meeting. This is the first one. If you'd like to speak, you can sign in at that little paper at the end of the desk there, and we would recognize you. Seeing no one has signed in, we'll move on into our consent agenda portion of the program. And I assume my fellow commissioners have had an opportunity to review the material in the
Yes.
consent agenda. So Leslie Ann, can we please have a reading of that?
Consent agenda, vouchers numbered 84341 through 84445 in the amount of $250,744.97. Payroll warrants numbered 72301 through 72480 in the amount of $628,062.11. Transfer and banking fees in the amount of $3,357,826.16. Commission meeting minutes of business meeting of October 6, 2014.
Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
I second that motion.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The agenda passes. We have an item under old business, and I believe that Kathy Byerly, our financial director there, services director, brought this for us to look at last meeting, and she, I don't know if I think Steve Goins might have something to add to this conversation too, so.
Okay, so we're back today with the resolution for the updated fee schedule. And again, there was just a few changes. Most of them are just clarifications on words and expressions. With the new fee for the business license and adding the false alarm.
I think if you could speak up, I know that, I think they fixed it, so I think if you move that closer to you, we might be able to hear you on the, that's all right. I think you got a cold and you're a little quieter than usual.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm bringing back the fee schedule, the updated fee schedule, the resolution for the updated fee schedule. And attached is the summary of the changes. There aren't very many. Most of them are clarifications. There is an increase to the new business license. And removing the fireworks booth permit fee, and adding the excess alarm fee, which has always been charged, just wasn't. It's in the municipal code, and now we're moving it to the fee schedule. Adding the paint machine and changing the minimum, the after-hours charge for water. And I believe last week there was a question on the stop work investigation and posting, which is an existing charge. There was just a little bit more clarification and adding it was per violation rather than, or per posting rather than per violation. So Steve's here if you have any more questions on that.
Yeah, Steve and I talked a little bit about this, and he was going to kind of look into it, so.
Yeah, this is, again, a little bit of background. The change that's on the fee schedule that's being considered is instead of the current wording that would seem to indicate that the posting is per code violation, the fee would be per posting site. And there's no change otherwise in terms of the fee, but it sounded like you were looking for some background information on how this fee works and how our operations go. I did some research into 2013 and 2014. For this year, we've issued 12 of these stop work violations. They're more spread out than I would have thought. There 5 were at commercial sites, 4 were at residential sites, and 3 were solely for a re-roofing permit. Of those, half the violators were requested to pay a fee. In 2 cases, the fee was waived, and 4 of those cases remain unresolved. A vast majority of these violations are the result of a complaint. We aren't generally looking for code violations of this nature, but someone has called and initiated a response from us, and typically it's Kelly Mayo that would go out and look over the project, and if there's any violation would post. The general objective in this process is to ensure that work is done to meet a minimum standard and it's done safely. That also helps with contractors that are working above the board. That is, they have a license, they're getting insurance, they have a business license, they're doing all those right things. That workers that are sort of under the radar or working outside the system don't get a competitive advantage in that case. Sort of creates a level playing field. Our intention is not to deter the improvements that are occurring. In fact, we had some cases in fairly recent time where there was a much higher number of re-roof permits that were being called, and this cycle of being posted was going on. And some of the local contractors met with us, and we tried to resolve how to deal with this. And it sounded like what was happening was, in many cases, they would get a call from a client that wanted to re-roof. Like this time of year, you might get a lot of those. Maybe you're afraid the weather's changing, your roof's not in good shape, and they want you to come out tomorrow. So the contractor wants the work, he does that, and he comes out and he starts the work without obtaining a permit. That was causing some friction in our department, so what we decided to incorporate was a process where they could call us in the morning and initiate a permit process while they're out there doing the work. And this has worked fairly well. I think with one exception, the re-roofing violations that we've had have been out-of-town contractors that aren't aware of our process, and they're coming in town and maybe under the same circumstances, but not aware we have this process in place. So that kind of summarizes what it's behind that. And again, we're here to do the work of the people and the commission, so we'll just take any action you have or direction you have on this matter.
Well, I was the one that brought up the question because I knew of different stop work permits in the past that happened, and I was trying to get clarification that if someone was doing something fairly innocent, like repairing a fence or something, that if we put a stop work on them and we stapled it to the fence, that when they said, oh, I had no idea I needed to get a permit to repair my existing fence, that when they came down to get the permit, they weren't then hit with the $67. It doesn't sound like you're doing that.
The violations are typically to folks that either were made aware that there was a permit required, or they're locally known entities that we've had conversations with a number of times. Right. Typically, we don't post a site where someone maybe is repairing a fence or doing something that isn't really so much a safety issue. But on the other hand, it is a way to get someone's attention, to get them to come in. And typically, that's what happens when we waive the permit. We're just trying to get them to come in, submit an application, and get everything squared away. And those are the types of cases where typically the fee is waived.
Okay, well, that clarifies it, and that answers my questions, and as long as we're in a situation where we're still, as we all know, in the middle of a recession, and I do hear from the public and the business community and residents, and one of the issues that people talk to me about is, is things like this. And so we just want to make sure that the city is a friendly city, and that it's a reasonable city, and that if somebody's doing something that they couldn't quite imagine you would need a permit for, that we respond to them in a professional and reasonable manner, and we're just not out slapping things on just to get the $67, you see. So that's my concern. And so any other questions or comments about this?
Yeah, I have a comment. Last week, it was sort of insinuated, just the same thing you're sort of insinuating, that we are out there doing these abusive permits, and I just want to clear up that there never has been and never would be a stop work order and a simple paint job. I think there was a misunderstanding that got out in the public like that, and I just wanted to squash that right now. I will tell you a story that happened today that gives me great pleasure in the idea that we do issue stop work order permits and we have a code to follow. A local business was doing some expansion today without a permit, and our building official visited them, and it turns out that they were expanding to a point where they were going to place 50 people in an area for dining. And had Kelly not went down there and addressed that they were over violation by 20 or 30 people, you could imagine putting 60 people or 50 people into a building that the city didn't sign off on, and a fire broke out with not a second exit, where we would have been liable-wise. So I think it's important to realize that Kelly's not out there and the building department isn't out there being punitive. There are fire life safety issues there. And without these things going on, there are a lot of people who don't know the rules or don't want to follow the rules, and I think it's important that we have this process, and if it takes a stop work violation and a fine, that's a lesson to learn. And in most cases, as my experiences with Kelly, is that many of these are waived once you come down and apply for the permit. We are not being heavy-handed. We are out there looking for contractors who aren't licensed, and for another reason is the underground economy, is that all these businesses that come into town and do work without getting permits, we lose on B&O tax and we lose on sales tax. And every builder that I've ever known knows that you are required to have a building permit and a city license. And for these guys to come in, and a lot of them are multiple time offenders. So I fully support the idea that we are out there protecting the public. There's a bigger need here of understanding that the building department is not your bad enemy. They're out there taking care of us and making things safe. So I hope that goes a little ways further to explain that, if you don't understand something, come in and ask. Don't just do it first and beg forgiveness later. That's not a good way to do business for anybody. My job here is to protect the community, and I take it pretty importantly. I take it very seriously that as a contractor myself, I don't like to see unlicensed guys out there because, as Steve said, it doesn't make a fair playing field. I can't compete with a guy who doesn't pay a license and bond fee to the state or the city. And any chance I get, if I see an unlicensed contractor, I call Kelly because it's protecting me and the public. So that's my comments.
All right, any other questions or comments?
In a past life, I was a certified permit technician, and as part of gaining that accreditation, I did a number of studies on why we do require building permits and why through history they have become required. And besides the fact that they help provide, the fees from building permits help provide for the running of the city department, it protects property values. If you have a property and you lease it out to someone who does an unlicensed remodel, when that property goes to sell, there aren't the records there, and so oftentimes it can cause great problems with reselling the property or with renting the property again. It's just so much better. It's so much less expensive to, if you are doing a project and you don't know you need a permit, to get that $67 fee and get the information that you need to make sure that the job is done in such a way that it does protect not only the property values, but the health and safety of the citizens who will be in that building or will be investing in that building in the future. So I fully understand the importance of having that availability.
All right, so I have another brief comment. Nowhere in anything that I said did I say any of that stuff. All I said is that if we put a stop work on somebody, do they have to pay an additional $67 fee because they had no idea that they were, and I know cases that is a reality, and I asked that question. It appears that we work with people like that, but I was not endorsing unlicensed contractors. I didn't say that we couldn't put a stop work on somebody. The only thing I said is, are we doing it in a fair and balanced way? And that's what I think we need to do, is to deal with the community in a fair and balanced way and not just do what you call unnecessary pain. So if that ends our discussion, I'd be happy to pass this and put this onto the consent agenda. Is there any more questions or comments?
Nope.
The request tonight is to have a reading of the resolution and a motion to approve it this evening.
Okay. So could we please, are we ready for reading the resolution? Okay, could we have that?
Resolution number 1073-1014, a resolution of the City of Shelton amending resolution number 1049-0613, the city fee schedule, revising fees and adopting new fees.
Is there any public comment about this action item? Seeing none, and we've already talked about it to a fair amount of discussion, do we concur? Let's see here. That I guess I would request a motion. It appears we want to pass this forward. So is there a motion? For this resolution?
I move that we approve resolution number 1073-1014.
Is there a second?
I second that motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 The motion passes. Next, under new business, is a briefing by, again, Kathy Byerly with a slight cold.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. I'm bringing forth a contract, an addendum to our Tyler Technology software contract. Basically, what is happening here is we identified that we would like to move to the newer version 10, and in doing so, we are being given a new permitting and mapping software. And this addendum, all it does, it takes off the old software modules and puts on the new one, and there's no additional fee for that. There's just a little bit of delay in deployment into next year.
Questions or comments for our financial director?
No.
Nope, we need software. I'm all for it. So I believe we are concur on this issue, and could we please place this on the consent agenda for, it looks like, October 27, 2014. Next is, under new business, will be a briefing. It's going to be presented to us by our Public Works Director, Greg Clark.
Mayor, Commissioners, excited to bring forward an opportunity for the City of Shelton to partner with both Basin Transit and the Basin Conservation District on a project that requires a city, I think it's city or county are the only two applicants that are eligible to submit to the Department of Ecology for a grant called Stormwater Financial Assistance Program. The vision here is to partner with Basin Transit partnership package to do an improvement right along Railroad Avenue, right next to the new Mason Transit's regional facility that's going in, to take what is really their laydown area right now off of Railroad Avenue, and that would eventually become the parking lot for the Mason Transit facility. It would be done in a fashion that would use kind of green technology and doing it as a low-impact development, utilizing new stormwater techniques for permeable pavement and landscaping and other things to make it a really nice, attractive place that can be used for parking during the business operation days of the Mason Transit facility. But then on weekends and alternate times, that particular space could be used for any number of opportunities the city would have for gatherings, for, did I not turn it on? I'm sorry.
I saw it coming.
Parking lot, like I say, during the week, but then for farmers markets or music festivals or any kind of public event, this would be a great hub right in the center, right off of Railroad Avenue to do that. So what this is what the city would be is in-kind services in administering this grant and letting it run through our system financially. The design would be done by the Conservation District, and then Mason Transit would be providing a lot of the matching funds to match whatever the grant dollars are, along with, I'm sure, a lot of other things associated with construction management and other necessary things. But it really is a win-win, I think, for all three agencies, and certainly for our community. And so I bring this forward. Kathy Geist is here from Mason Transit. I think she has a few words to say, and I don't know if John Bolander from the Conservation District also has anything to say, but John was actually the one that approached me initially on this idea, and it's a kind of a quick turnaround because the grant is due November 7th, so we're kind of on a hurry up, get her done deal. So Kathy, go ahead.
Commissioner Brunt, Commissioner Moore, and Commissioner Olson. Actually, this kind of started about a year and a half ago. When I started at Transit, I saw the need for some parking area for our facility and looking and seeing how we might do that. The site itself, part of it has always been a parking lot. The people from the Clink building, those guys park their trucks there. They've always parked there. And then we have an older building, Dr. Radich's building, that's been there forever, and we have a tenant in there right now. Between that building and the restaurant is a pathway, and I call it a cow path because that's kind of what it looks like. And that path is used all the time. Whenever you're down at when we're down at our project, there's people coming through that path using it constantly. So our concept and our design concept with our facility, we'll have a path that goes through our open atrium, across the alley, and then we're going to develop that little path with this project. We're going to go ahead and let the community keep using it like they have been. I was actually told from some seniors at the senior center when I was there doing an outreach thing to them, I had a couple of them come up to me and tell me that they used that path in the 60s when they used to go to the old junior high. They walked in that same area. So that path's not going to go away. We're going to keep it for the community, and it'll be part of this project. We didn't want to just pave Paradise. We didn't want to just put a parking lot right downtown Railroad Avenue. That doesn't help anything. It just provides parking. So we didn't want to just provide parking. We also wanted to do it in the most environmentally friendly way that we could. And with all the new pervious parking applications that they've come up with over the last probably 10 years, Public Works guys probably know more about it than I do, but I've been looking into it, and it's a really cool way to do it. It takes that water and it basically treats it naturally before it goes anywhere and harms anything, and it's not going to have to go into the city's stormwater system either. So it's a really great way to do it. They perfected a lot of the designs over the last 10 years or so and worked a lot of the bugs out. I immediately got a hold of John and working with John and Karen and Rich at the Mason, the transportation, or the Mason Conservation, and they've been looking ever since we talked a year and a half ago about for monies that will help us do this project. So they get really 95% of the credit and for doing the work. And this will take us all the way through to project design and implementation and construction. So yeah, it should work out really well. We have a lot of plans for the site, not just parking. That's just kind of a side thing with all the ideas we have for the site for after hours and on the weekends. So it should be a really nice amenity. It's not just going to be a parking lot plopped down there. So, and it will be educational. I know Department of Ecology and Conservation is really looking forward to educating the public on all the ways that you can do that and all the ways that you can create parking spaces without paving paradise. We want to get that message out to everybody for low impact development and how important it is and how well it works when they do it in communities. So that's it. And this is John Bollender. I wanted to introduce him. He's shy.
He's not that shy. He could say a
I
few
know.
words if he wanted to.
Yeah, if you could. Oh, you have to now.
He's not that shy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Just real quickly, Transit's had a vision. Trying to find a way to paint that vision onto a canvas has been a little bit of a challenge over the last year and a half, trying to find resources to be able to do that. We're fortunate that we have some very talented engineer and landscape architects on our staff that can be available for the city or other organizations to be able to draw on. And through this partnership with the city being able to act as the fiscal agent to receive the funds, the Conservation District will do most of the heavy lifting in terms of the design and permitting and things like that to realize Kathy and the Transit's vision. What she's didn't describe is a parking lot plaza concept. So when it's not being used for parking, think of it as a plaza within the city, a beautiful street frontage on railroad, multi-purpose use. And you don't often think about this, but if it functions properly in terms of the low impact design and it does remove some stormwater from getting into your storm sewer system, it's reducing to some small amount the impacts on your capital infrastructure. So there's some benefit to the city that comes back in that fashion. So we're excited to have the project embraced by the Public Works Department, their enthusiasm, and the opportunity to work on behalf of Transit in this partnership, local governments working together to share resources.
Thank you very much for your comments, both of you. And so I guess...
I got a question, if anybody can answer, is if we do this, is it locked in as a parking, I'm sorry, you guys are very good salespeople, but it's still a parking lot. Are you locked into it forever as it could never be changed from that? Because I've shared it with Kathy before. I'm really not a big fan of a parking lot on Railroad Avenue. It could be prime retail space right there, and that's, I hate to lose that. But I like your project. It's a great project.
So one of the things that we were hoping to do there, that we are hoping to do and planning to do, is on those times when it's not being used as a parking lot during the day, we'll bring farmers markets in, maybe some vendors. We have two of the entities that are going to be using our commercial kitchen, our teaching kitchen, also want to do sort of a farm to plate kind of a program in the summer. So we want to hold out a portion of it, and hopefully that will be in it will be in our design, that a portion of it will be held out for like raised bed gardens so that Olympic College can do a program where they show how to plant the food, harvest the food, bring it literally across the alley and into our kitchen and cook the food. So that's a little bit of a way to show some economic benefit. We will have that. Unless there's something to do with the grant that makes us keep it as that, and I've not seen that in there, but I can't guarantee. I mean, I didn't see it, but I'll look into that, Mike, and find out for sure. But unless there's something in it that tells us we have to use it that way for the rest of our lives and the lives of the lot, I wouldn't see any reason why we couldn't use it for something else later if we decided that was a better use. But I think it's going to be very popular.
Typically, those kinds of restrictions that come with those kinds of dollars are attached to the life of the practice. So think about this as a stormwater practice has a useful life of maybe 15, 20 years possibly. So at some point in the future, should there be a demand for that kind of real estate, if Transit was inclined to surplus that property or do something to make it available, it wouldn't be locked away for perpetuity.
All right, any other questions or comments?
Yes, I am very enthusiastic about this project. I was very pleased. I've been going to conferences, and this is the wave of the future. So I appreciate this beginning in Shelton. I think that we will have many more opportunities to use this type of stormwater management. I'm very, very excited about it, so keep it coming, John.
Thank you, and thanks, you guys have just been great. I've seen, just in the last couple years, I've seen more partnerships and working together of the city and the county and us and the port and all of us together. It's just a really great thing to see, so
We're a lovable
it's been great
group.
working. We are a lovable
We're a
group.
lovable group, don't ever forget that.
Yeah, just don't let Mike sing Kumbaya. He's not got a good
Just
choice.
real quickly,
Yeah.
this would be the second project that the Conservation District has done within the city limits. We did the pervious concrete parking lot at Turning Point a number of years ago, and all the stormwater treatments down there. So it is another opportunity to, again, reduce stormwater infrastructure costs. You can get your development. You don't have to build bigger pipes for all of it, although most of it you would. But this is a good way to reduce impact on your capital infrastructure.
You know that, you might want to stay just 1 minute. There are some other, if you're curious to see what some of these applications look like.
Is it going to be within like 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm real curious, sure.
No, it will be, yeah. You could go to the Public Works, the County Public Works, they have it. Pioneer School has some in their parking lot. The coolest one, which we'll do a portion of that, we want to show all the different ones you can do, is the Colonial House. Behind the Colonial House, you see all that pretty grass? That's actually a parking lot. So if you get down on your knees and weird like me and dig through it and feel what's underneath there, you can find out that that's just also a parking lot. So we'll have a portion of that in there too.
Very good.
So, yeah.
All right, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, it appears that, we are for putting this on the consent agenda for October 28, 2014. And we'll do that. Thank you very much. All right, next is, if I can turn my paper, an administration report.
Okay, first up is a report from Mike Michael, I believe, on forest management ideas, plans.
Okay?
And I'll keep this fairly short. Last time we talked about this, it was in draft form. There weren't really any comments to go back to the consultant, Rick Kuykendall, to incorporate their few minor edits and tweaks and adding in a couple appendices that weren't in the draft report. But other than that, it was pretty well complete, pretty thorough. So, but I did promise to come back when it was actually finally published. And if possible, bring back an answer to the question of, if we were to do a harvest, how much? So it is published. I do understand as of late this afternoon, there may be a problem with the link, so you may still be getting to the old draft plan. I'll take care of that in the morning. But I have a hard copy that's up in the Public Works office, as well as a digital copy that's, if not right now, will be sometime tomorrow available on the website. Rick did reluctantly answer my question about how much, and primarily he hesitated to put that out there because some of the input that goes into calculating the how much changed quite drastically. Forest product market varies very regularly, as he told me in a phone conversation, at some points of the season from day to day, if not week to week. But he did do a fairly conservative estimate for us just to give us a sense. And very much in keeping with the number one concept of the plan, primarily that we keep the land well suited for the recreational, the community functions that are there. And so he extended that across the whole property, even though, as we talked previously, the northeast corner, Island Lake Drive, Brockdale Road area is kind of situated because it's lack of use for a more heavy harvest. He assumed.
So Mike, you left out a piece of it. You said how much. I think you mean how much if you sold it for trees.
How much revenue if we made a timber sale?
All right, okay.
That was the question that came out of our last discussion. Okay. So, Rick assumed an equal amount of harvest across the property as a whole instead of doing it in segments. He assumed between 20 and 30% harvest at the most. So fairly innocuous, right along the lines of what would be needed to do the harvest that was identified for health reasons on some of the potentially diseased trees. Based on the market as of September 1st, Rick came up with a range between approximately 250,000 and just shy of 400,000 for that limited amount of harvest. One of the caveats he did have is it's kind of on the lower side because of the limited harvest. It also assumes all of the areas that he identified for partial harvest are done at the same time to minimize that cost reduction and overhead fees. And from there, it could go up and down depending on what the market is at the actual time the commission made a decision to go forward with that and put out a bid as we would be required to do. So that's the information I have. I do have a copy of his quick little memo to me about the potential values. Again, I have one hard copy that's up in the Public Works office. Full electronic copy, if not now, will be available tomorrow on the website for everybody to take a look at.
All right, yes, Mr. Clark.
I just wanted to mention that Mark Ziegler from Parks and Recreation talked to me, and I think it certainly could be done in conjunction with this project, is that if harvest was to happen and some of the diseased trees and that were taken out, any of the kind of trails and roads that would be needed to get that material out of there possibly then could be transitioned into a paths and trails type of extension of the Huff and Puff trail system up there. So I think it could also provide for additional trails in the end.
Good, sounds like a win-win-win. All right, any more on the administration report?
Just want to report my own activities, which is going to be pretty budget-focused at this point. So we've got a budget report due for our meeting this week, and so I'll be putting that together. I've already started, in fact, this week.
All right, very good. We do have general public comment period. If anybody wants to respond, they just have to sign a name and address in, and if nobody wants to, that's fine. We will move forward then with any administration final touches.
Touches on the purple sheet.
All right, very good. Our next meeting will be October 28th at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. Oh, wait a second. I have to make a little note on my notes. 27th, October 27th. This meeting is adjourned. I just read what's on my